was a disco queen. She came from New Orleans. Catfish was her name. Dancing was a claim to fame.
What's up, guys? So, I just want to give you my thoughts on the Clash for those all 5 or 6 of you out there that still watch this channel. Um, yeah, as you could see, I think NASCAR did an amazing job with the track. It turned out better than I thought it would. I thought it was going to look a little bit more like one of those weekend things that pop up. It really looks like a purpose-built track that was always meant to be there. Um, it definitely looked like something that the people that were there live, there's no way they didn't enjoy this. This is as good as it gets for a live event. Um, yes, I still think it's still slight gimmicky, right? The whole thing is kind of gimmicky, but there are moments, and this is proof that sometimes gimmicks are not a bad thing, especially if it's part of an exhibition. This is not a points paying race. It's not, a regular season thing. So I thought it all turned out really, really, really well. Okay. I won't go as far as calling it great, but it's just a notch below, which is really good, to be honest. There's not a lot to complain about. The racing itself actually reminded me a lot of Martinsville. It's pretty much Martinsville, but even smaller. And yeah, so I that's really good. Now, the thing that I was happiest about, you know, we had a couple of months all away from NASCAR racing, period. And now we finally have the next gen car. We've seen it in testing and practice and doing laps at Daytona. But as you could see now, we get to see these cars for the first time in their full glory, meaning the paint schemes, the way they're going to look, the number being moved up. I like it. I like it. And I know a lot of people are still complaining about it, but the cars look great to me. The number movement doesn't bother me at all. It looks good. But more importantly, the car itself, it sounds amazing. Um, how is this car going to race, at other tracks? Most importantly, the bigger tracks, maybe the mile and a halfs. That's the real question, right? So we have to reserve judgment. But just from, this little bit of racing we got to see here, um, I thought it was great. Also, what I like about this venue in particular, it served as a really solid test bed for this new car, right? This is the first time it's actually in race conditions being pushed, right? Lots of beating and banging, a lot of physical racing. Even the front stretch and the back stretch is not really straight. It's kind of shaped like a football, not really, but the front stretch and the back stretch are still curved. You're constantly pulling that wheel to the left and lots of hard braking and acceleration. So you're getting the extremes of all the mechanics of the car, the suspension, the brakes. Yeah, so it was really good, a really good way to ring out the car and see where the weak spots are. Yes, there were a couple of moments where we saw some technical issues, right? Denny Hamlin, I believe, lost a belt with it, which affected the steering. And there were a couple of issues with the transaxle, right? So for those of you who don't know, the transmission is a little further back, and it's right up against the rear end of the rear end suspension, which is an independent rear, but you got a gearbox. So I'm not sure, all right? Don't quote me on this, but I'm not sure if there's an actual drive shaft or if it's the tail of the transmission is directly linked to the rear gearbox. I'm not 100% sure. But in either case, it's not like the old car. So um, one of the issues is unknown, but the other one was with Tyler Reddick, and he admitted that it was on him. It was on him. It was his fault. I don't know if he dropped the clutch at the wrong time, and when it caught the gear, it broke something, right? So we don't know what really happened, but he took responsibility for that. He said it was on him, really. So all things considered, you had several good hard races, and the cars held up pretty good. Um, I mean I give it high marks just based on this, right? We still got to see what happens when these cars are wound up at a bigger track, things like that. But I have to say that's another thing I really liked. The cars themselves. This is my favorite thing about the car. The look and the sound of the car is so much closer to the real cars, right? The Camaros, the Mustangs. Now, there really is no Toyota counterpart for this, but it does leave the door open in the future for Toyota to kind of maybe put out a rear wheel drive kind of uh, pony car. I don't think that's going to happen, but in either case, these cars actually look like if you took away the paint schemes, you just painted them a flat color, they really look like a car you could drive off a showroom floor. Um, there are really high end performance versions of these cars that you can buy. Um, Camaros and with big brake packages, high horsepower, uh, um, really top end suspensions, things like that. So these cars feel a lot more like a real car. And that's something NASCAR has been missing for generations, right? For me, you got to go all the way back to the 70s to see cars that really look like a direct representation of something you could drive off a showroom floor. The 80s, they still had kind of the look, but they were, at that point, they were morphing into more of a full blown race car than anything stock. So yeah, I love the look and the sound. The cars sound like muscle cars. And this is something else that the reason I can't get into IndyCar and Formula One, I can't get into those cars. I've been a car guy all my life. I've worked on cars all my life. I've built cars from the ground up. I've completely rebuilt cars. I've done performance work. The only thing I haven't done to a car is rebuild a transmission. That's it. I've built engines. I've done everything. For many years, I lost track of how many cars I've had. So I know a lot about cars. I understand cars. I understand, how they work. And I know what's going on mechanically. So I have a big appreciation for stock cars in general because they remind me a lot of something that I could work on and I've actually driven. Not stock cars like in, NASCAR, but I've worked on muscle cars. I've, raced at quarter mile tracks, things like that. So I know about performance. I have experience, as a mechanic. So that's been my connection to NASCAR through the cars, right? When I see open wheel, IndyCar, Formula One, I see those cars. I have no connection to those cars. They just feel like something that is beyond my understanding, right? I mean, I get it, but at the same time, it's like I don't feel like I could jump into one of those cars and actually drive or race it. So it's kind of always been a detachment for me, right? I get why people love F1 and IndyCar and other forms of racing, but I'm just explaining why I've always loved NASCAR. My original pull to the sport is the cars. And we're seeing a return to cars that actually look like real, bona fide, race, stock cars. So, yeah, I love that. I love the look, the sound, everything. As you can see, this whole event really was well done. Uh, the broadcast wasn't terrible. And like I've said in the past, my biggest issue is simply too many commercials. Every time you turn around, you're cutting back to commercials. This is not something new. This is an ongoing issue. And I do think there has to be a way NASCAR could at least, you're not going to eliminate commercials, but man, there has to be a way to streamline it better where you don't feel like just when you're really getting back into the action, you're cutting back to a commercial again. NASCAR has to figure that out. But yeah, man, look at these cars, man. They look amazing. And yeah, it turned out to be a really, really good, event. I think it would be good if they kept coming back here for the Clash every year and make this a ongoing thing. So that's where I'm going to leave it, right? For the most part, it turned out to be really good. It's a great way to kick off the season. We just spent 2 months or somewhat 2 months with no NASCAR, and it's like, man, you're itching to watch some racing again. And the way it's been in the past, it's been um where you get Daytona Speed Weeks, you get testing, then you get the Clash, right? Remember when the Clash was always at Daytona. Then you had the Gatorade duels, right? Then you have the big. By the time you get to the actual Daytona 500, it's like almost 3 weeks of just Daytona, 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 and watching cars in the conga line again and again. Uh, it's boring. And by the time you get to the Daytona 500, I feel kind of tired. Like, oh man, finally it's here. And then you sit through 3.5, sometimes 4 hours of a conga line of meaningless racing, in my opinion, at least. What's the point of racing for the lead? Once you get to the lead, you can't get away. So now you're just blocking. A lot of guys, half the field is just hanging around the back till the end of the race. The only actual excitement, for me at least, comes from the last couple of laps when everyone's finally going for it. And that's the nature of restrictor plate racing, and it's why I hate it. But, my point is that having the Clash at Daytona, it just lengthened the whole experience. And by the time the Daytona 500 was over, I always felt, thank God it's over. We finally got this race out of the way. Now we can get to some real racing. At least with this, you start the season off with some what I consider real racing. Beating, banging, side by side, really going for it. Nothing to do with drafting and being stuck, in a conga line. It's just like, yeah, you kind of got a conga line here, but it's for other reasons, right? There's just no room, and you have to kind of make your own room. So to start the season off with something like this, I think it's perfect, and I would not mind seeing if this becomes a permanent thing. And then you can get to Daytona, the duels, and then finally the Daytona 500. And I think this is a much better segue into the new season. Uh, so those are my thoughts on that. Now, this is where I'm going to leave things off. As you saw, almost everything I've said about this whole experience has been positive. There is one thing that I'm going to say. It's just a warning to people, and I can see it already. People are going to look at this and they're going to say, my God, this was amazing. I want more. And when I say I want, they're going to say they want more. I don't mean like, okay, let's do the Clash here every year. They're going to want more, like, where else in the schedule can we shoehorn either this track or another track like it? Like, oh, let's pick another stadium and build a track and shoehorn these cars in there. This is where I'm going to go to the other side of things and warn people. First and foremost, It's fine to appreciate what this was, but keep in mind what it is. It's an exhibition. It was chopped up into all kinds of segments, and you're not trying to shoehorn 40 cars, a full field, into a full blown race. Okay? This is great for what it is. Okay? This wouldn't work as a full race, as a points paying race. It's just a terrible idea. And I do think there's going to be people out there advocating for it. So I'm warning people, and this is also going to be like, uh, remember what happened with the 2018 All Star race, where I warned everybody. Everybody was screaming about how amazing. Oh my God, that new package that NASCAR. Remember, I talk about gimmicks, right? And they tried the new gimmick with the pack racing at, at Charlotte. And oh my God, everybody was so excited and like, oh, we need this everywhere. We need more of this. Guess what? Be careful what you wish for. NASCAR listened to people and they gave it to them. And they said, uh, okay, yeah, people like this. Let's forge ahead, full speed ahead. And what we've had ever since is horrible racing. People don't want, you know, uh, just full throttle racing all the time. They don't want baby Daytona. So we have to learn from that, right? An exhibition is an exhibition. You can't compare that to regular schedule racing, full blown races. Okay? So if you want to try a gimmick, at an exhibition for fun, to just, spice things up, I got no problem with that. And as I said, this would be good if it became tradition. This is a good way to start the season. It's real racing, and it was fun, right? And then you could go to Daytona and go through your whole boring, thing, and make it seem like it's, oh my God, such a great race when it's not. Just my opinion. Uh, and that would be good. But, I'm warning against people taking this and saying, oh, we need more of this. In other words, throughout the whole year. No, this was good for what it was, an exhibition. Leave this where it belongs. Okay? We don't need more of this. Remember with 2018 in the All Star race. And I warned people that wasn't going to work, that, it was going to be a mistake, and I was right. So I was kind of wrong about this, and I'm here to admit it. I thought it would be kind of a shit show. I was a bit too gimmicky when I first heard about it, and I'm wrong. It was actually good. I actually enjoyed it. I think that it's a positive thing. Doesn't mean we need this as a part of the regular season, or it doesn't mean they need to go around and start doing more at other stadiums. Like, this works here, and it works as an exhibition, and it's perfect for the Clash. And I like the way it starts our season off, and then you could go to Daytona and do your Daytona stuff. Instead of having the Clash, the duels, the Daytona 500. Then you got all the speed weeks and the testing and the practice sessions. It's like more than 3 weeks of Daytona, Daytona, Daytona. I was, to me, by the time you get to the end, it's so exhausting, and it, to me, just it never matches the hype. Uh, so those are my thoughts on that. I really enjoyed it. What do you agree? What do you disagree with? Let me know. And I hope you guys enjoyed that. Yeah, I look forward to your comments. So later.
She was a disco